وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعه إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. First of all, Brother Ibrahim saying Assalamu alaikum to everyone. He came back, but he's from the trip and all of that. He's a little bit under the weather, so inshallah he's planning to come next week, inshallah. We started talking, reflecting on Ayat al-Kursi. And inshallah we'll continue today. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started the ayah by giving us, and the whole ayah is about the Asma Allah al-Husna, about getting to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is a very important subject. It's not a subject of an application, but it is a subject of realization and knowledge about Allah. So within the ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not tell us what to do, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us whatever it is that we do, who we are doing it for. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and who is Allah. And the companions used to say that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam taught us the Iman and then taught us the Quran. And the Iman is the belief in the heart. And the application came little by little. But the knowledge of the concepts of that there is a creator, and the creator has attribute, and the creator has a relationship with you, and we need to figure that relationship by understanding who is our creator. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started it by telling us that Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayy al-qayyum. Al-hayy al-qayyum. We talked about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us His attributes, some attributes to confirm what Allah has, and some information to tell us what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is clear of, does not have, it's not befitting to have. And we take this with the concept of إثبات دون تشبيه وتنزيه دون تعطيل. That means إثبات meaning to confirm what Allah confirmed for Himself, but دون تشبيه, without making Allah looking like anything that we know. So we confirm what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala confirms for Himself without referring Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likeness to anything. And tanzihun duna ta'til. And tanzih meaning we deny what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deny for Himself. Okay? Without denying anything that Allah proves for Himself. You have to be very careful with that. Okay? We do not go to extreme both ways. We do not go to extreme confirming to the point that Allah would look like something, and we do not go to denying, extreme in denying to the point that we deny something that Allah said He has. Okay? That is the balance. And here is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us this, Al-Hayy Al-Qayyum. We know what hayah is, existence is. But the existence of Allah, of course, it is different than our existence. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the heavens and the earth, time and space. And Allah existed before this universe existed. So the universe does not contain Allah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not contained and limited with time and space. Okay? And so He is Hayy, without a beginning and without an end. And of course we cannot, our mind will stop where it is going to stop, because we are the creation, and the creation cannot, impossible for it to contain the Creator completely, to surround the Creator with knowledge, total knowledge. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us some knowledge to understand, but then the mind will stop where it needs to stop. And try not to fight with that, okay? And try to squeeze things to make sense, okay? And it has to be understood 100%. No, we understand it as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us, and then we stop where we need to stop. So Al-Qayyum Qa'im, He is constantly in charge of everything and taking care of everything that He created, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then Allah says, لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم. This is denying what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or giving us information what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not have of quality. Okay? It does not arrive to Him sina, slumber, or sleep. Because this is what we are familiar with, our existence in space and time. And our effort to do something, it takes something out of us that we need to rest. So if we push ourselves, slumber will come to us. In other words, we'll be forced to rejuvenate our system. Okay, or you go to sleep. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, do not think of me in this sense. When I say I exist, it's not like you exist. When I say I am taking care of everything, it is not like you taking care of things. Because there is deficiencies that you have, and there is no deficiency that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, period. لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم. Then another concept, another attribute we need to understand. له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض. له, belonging to Him. Everything that is in the heavens, meaning the skies above us and all the creation above us, and what's on earth. Again, this concept, we take it now, the same principle that we took the first two, like, meaning that ownership, what ownership is to us. Ownership to us is it's something that we need. Something that we need. And what we own doesn't need us, but we need it. Why? Because we have deficiencies, we have needs. We have needs. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not have needs. So this ownership, we need to look at it differently. Okay, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need what He owns, and what He owns depends on Him on everything, or in everything. And He does not, subhanahu wa ta'ala, depend on them on anything, or depend on anything, period. Okay? Versus that we own things, but we need what we own, and and what we own does not need us, and we need help in our ownership. Why? Because our knowledge is not surrounding everything. We have limited knowledge as a human being, and also limited knowledge as individuals. We vary in knowledge amongst us and abilities. So in my ownership, I have knowledge, some knowledge, but then I'm not in total control of it. So if something goes wrong with it, I go to someone who has a knowledge of what is wrong of what I own. So He will help me in my ownership. That's ownership as we know it, as a human being. But when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all this does not fit. Okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need help within His ownership, period. He's in a total control. So when we start thinking about that, then we think now that the ownership that we have is given to us. So we do not have any absolute ownership, period. Okay? Even the ownership that is obvious, which is ownership with ourselves, with our own limbs, with our own body, with our own senses. We do not have an absolute ownership on it. Okay? So it is given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a limited time, and we will be accountable, will be held accountable for how we use this ownership. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it completely, okay, the perception that we have is, my hand will do anything I wish for it to do, my eyes will look to anything that I wish that it would look at, and I would listen to anything that I wish, and so forth. These senses are working, and my body does not deny me control over it. But it is temporarily, and it's not absolute. Okay? But now when we think about that, we think about judgment. How are we going to be judged according to what? If we're not really in control of what we own. Well, you're going to make decisions and plan to do things. That is what we are free in. Free in making a decision and planning how to execute this matter that we are intending to do. We are free there. But once we leave this circle of intention and planning, now we're not in total control now. We go into the arena of time and space, right? So whatever it is that you're planning now, you're going to execute, you are controlled by the environment around you. It might not be executed properly, and not because of any difficulties or any problems that you have, but because of the difficulties that surround you and so forth. So now the qadr of Allah will be in this now. The qadr of Allah will be in this. Okay? Because everything belongs to Allah. And Allah only allows things that He decrees for it to happen will happen. And other things that does not decree for it to happen, even though you're planning for it, you have intention to do it, it is not going to happen. So that is understanding now of ownership. له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه. Okay. Now it is since the life, how you are existing in this life, and how that you need help in your existence, okay, and things happening and so forth, okay, and you need that relationship with Allah. We need to know that the relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a relationship that no one will help you in it except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and your deeds. Meaning the deeds that you do, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will judge you according to that. And if He wishes, He forgive, and if He wishes, He will punish. Now, could you think as our life here sometimes needs a shafi', meaning someone to intercede in your part? Okay. So now you know that you are deficient in something and you're not improving yourself in it, which you can, but you're not doing it. And you say there are others that are really good, and now I'm going to ask, for them to intercede on my part with Allah. Right? because I am not really doing a good job, but there are plenty others around me, who do a good job, and I'm going to ask them to intercede in my part. Okay? Don't depend on that. Okay? Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, no one will intercede on anybody's part without the permission of Allah. So will something or people will can intercede? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will allow that to happen. But it is not guaranteed, it is by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asking this question, مَنْ ذَا الَّذِي يَشْفَعُ عِنْدَهُ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِهِ? Who is going to be shafi'ah except by His permission? Now that you know the attributes before, you know that you are helpless. And you say, no one, that is the answer. Okay? That is the understanding in this ayah, for us to know where we stand as in existence. And our stands with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم. Here is knowledge. يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم. That is, He has a knowledge of what is in between their hand and what is behind them. ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء. And they are cannot surround anything of the knowledge of Allah except when Allah wishes. So what is this talk, or this is about? About knowledge, okay? And about knowledge that a human being think of knowledge, it is something that is essential, important, useful. The lack of it could be harmful, and so forth. So now, do not think that your ability to gain knowledge will get you to escape what you understood so far. Right? In other words, you have weaknesses, and say, by discovering it, by working on this, by knowing that, by putting this together, I will be over this. I'll have some kind of control. Do not let this deceive you. Your ability to gain knowledge, do not let it deceive you. Do not let it to, for that ability to get you to the level of arrogance. Okay, remember we say that, you're thinking, a human being thinks, evaluates, gains some knowledge, and make things happen, and he thinks that he is the one who is making things happen. Okay, no, understand what was just said before, that no, you're not, your ability is zero. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is saying that the knowledge, all the knowledge belongs to Allah, and what you know is little, and you only know it by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is about knowledge and ability to use knowledge, and also about time. About time. Here is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying that يَعْلَمُ مَا بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ, the knowledge of what is coming in time, in the future. وَمَا خَلْفَهُمْ, and what happened before them. So Allah has a total knowledge in the past and in the future. Okay, we have limited knowledge of what happened in the past. Okay, very limited knowledge, and definitely no knowledge of what will happen in the future except what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us. But now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the present time. وَلَا يُحِيطُونَ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنْ عِلْمِهِ. That is a present time, a moment in existence. You're existing now. And now you think you can surround some knowledge with your ability now. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, even in the present time, you have no ability to surround a subject matter with knowledge except what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you about it, allows you to know. Again, look to where you are standing in this universe. Do not get arrogant. Like those who came before us and those who are with us today too. They say, Man ashaddu minna quwwa. Who is more powerful than us? Okay? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered them. Say to them that Allah is ashadda minkum quwwa. He's more powerful than you. This is what we are understanding in the ayah now. Okay? And the concept about the future and the past is very important concept that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about many times and tells us that the one that He loves, the one who exerts an effort in the moment to obey, Allah protects him from fear and hope, or give him hope or fear and sadness and regret. Take away fear and regret from them. Khawf wal huzn. Okay, what is fear and regret? Regret on the past and fear on the future, of the future. Right? So here is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying that everything under my control. Okay? And knows that you do not have much power. And the power that you get in is through the ability that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you. And that ability is limited. And the ability to gain knowledge and get knowledge. Okay? So know that what you're gaining is from Allah, and you're not going to escape this. You are in it. يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء. Even the very intimate subjects like your own self, you're not even surrounding. We are not surrounding ourself totally with knowledge, or have knowledge of ourselves totally. The very thing that is in us that makes us move and talk and walk and so forth is the soul. Without it, we do not exist like our existence now. We don't know anything about it. We know the effect of it, but we have no idea what it is. And from the miracles that Allah in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ. They ask you about الروح. قُلْ الروح مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي. They say, الروح is a matter that belongs to Allah. وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. And you are given nothing from knowledge except so little. You are given whatever knowledge that we're giving you, it is so little. So little that you do not even know what that soul is between you, or it's within you, what that is. Okay? So now be humble. Okay? If you don't know what your soul is like, how are you going to ask about the creator of the soul? You want to know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like? When the Israelites told Musa, لَن نُؤْمِنَ لَكَ حَتَّى نَرَى اللَّهَ جَهْرًا. We will not believe in you unless we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with our own eyes like that. And they do not even know who they are, how they are existing. Okay. So, وَلَا يُحِيطُونَ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنْ عِلْمِهِ إِلَّا بِمَا شَاءَ. وَسِعَ كُرْسِيُّهُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. وَسِعَ كُرْسِيُّهُ. The kursi yuhu, the kursi of Allah, the chair, the throne. But what does that mean, the word kursi? Okay. First of all, it is vast to hold the heavens and the earth in it. Again, know who you are in the universe. You are in a planet, Earth, called Earth. Okay? That if you have a bird view of who you are, okay, a bird view from high up, you don't exist. You cannot even see a human being on Earth. If you just get closer you get to the moon, if you will, the human being does not you don't see the human being existing there. And this Milky Way that we are in, which is you go to from one end to the other, it will take you several millions and millions of years. Okay, this is nothing comparing to the Sama' ad-Dunya. The Milky Way in the Sama' ad-Dunya is nothing, and this Sama' ad-Dunya here, the first sky, in the second one is like a grain of a sand or a small ring in a huge desert. Okay, we know this, right? And then you take both of them to the third, is like a ring in the desert. So what is the third would be like? Holding the first and the second in it. So how vast that is. And this vastness in the fourth one is like nothing in it. And you take all of them, all four, into the fifth is nothing, like a ring in the desert. And take all the seven of them. In the kursi, compared to the kursi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is like a circle in the desert. So now, stop even thinking now. It is beyond anything that you could imagine, because you imagine only what you have experience with. And what you have experience with is very limited to the knowledge that you have and can surround. Okay? So now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by saying that, telling us now, look at yourself. Okay? Where you stand in this universe. Okay? Now, the kursi, the letters that this word is made of, it gives the impression of something that contains something in it. Okay. The kursi, this is a chair. A chair, it is to contain something in it. Someone will sit on a chair, right? There is a language of kurrasa. Kurrasa, meaning in some dialect, meaning a notebook. Okay, a notebook, meaning that which you write in to contain the whatever it is that you want to contain in it, some knowledge, some written material in there. Okay, that you record. Okay, so the kursi, wasa'a kursiyuhu, the kursi that give us what the impression and the understanding of what is surrounding everything that is created. The whole creation is in it. And وَلَا يَؤُودُهُ حِفْظُهُمَا. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remember at the beginning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that slumber and sleepiness does not reach Allah. Also tiredness does not reach Allah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not exert an effort, okay, to keep this universe running. Allah doesn't exert an effort. It's not befitting to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exerts effort. Okay. Again, it is who we are and who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. When we want something to happen, we exert an effort in the time and in the space to make it happen, try to make it happen. So we have to move and do work in the universe, within the time that will take for us to do this work, for it to happen. But since Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not controlled or contained by time and space, then Allah's work is different than us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala work Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not exert an effort. Okay. إنما أمره إذا أراد شيء, his command is nothing but what? If when he wants something, is what? أن يقول له, to say to it be. The work of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is kun. Okay? فيكون. And then it becomes. Then it is. Okay. However, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to something be, it will be within time and space. So it will, the initiation will start seeing it. And the process of kun fayakun, we will start seeing it. Right? But with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's already happened. But with us, it is happening. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Isa alayhi salam in the womb of his mother Maryam alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told to him before his existence, be, and he was. He was what? He was a nutfa in the mother womb. And then she carried him for 9 months, she delivered and so forth. This now, kun, the process we see it. But with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the process is done. Nothing in this process will be stopped unless Allah wishes for it to stop. And whatever qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala within this process Allah ordained for it, it will happen. Okay? So kun fayakun, be and it is. Okay? So when you make dua and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts your dua, then the answer of the dua will exist in time and space. So therefore it will take for you time to realize the answer of the dua here. Okay? That's what we call, we see al-asbab, the means, right? The means. That, you're hungry, you eat, you're thirsty, you drink, you take the means for existence. But all this was happening with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be, and it is, right? But unfortunately what we do is, we think that we need food and we have to go after it and we work this and that, and finally we accomplish this, we got it. No, it is all this is under the qadr of Allah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows all of this to happen as such. Okay? But at the same time, put in us the beautiful equation of you need to do work, okay? But at the same time, you depend on Allah, 100%. So you have that within you, that your limbs must work. You need to drink to quench yourself. So you need to get something and go to the water and drink. But drinking is not what's going to quench you. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will allow you to be quenched. Will be, full. This is by Allah's permission. Right? So the cause and effect, here we have to be clear about it. The cause and effect, sometimes we think it is guaranteed. That if we do this, this will happen. Okay, a person who is disconnected with Allah, they lead their lives this way. Okay, they think they are in control and try hard here, this and that, right? But those what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, al-akhsaruna a'mala. Okay, those who are the worst, carrying the worst of deed. يظنون أنهم يحسبون أنهم يحسنون صنعا. Okay, they think that they are their work is beautiful. Okay, they are the loser, the worst of losers. Their deeds are not connected to Allah. Okay? But a believer, two people will be doing the same work, getting the same results. One will get rewarded and the other one will not. but the one who will be getting rewarded because his heart is dependent on Allah and knows the result is by Allah. The other one says, I made it happen, right? You can hear this in the talk of if you notice, okay, that we are living in a life in the West that the concept of the deity is very shallow, and you should not bring it into serious matter. Okay? You can bring it into celebration, okay? Bring it into, some desires here and there. You bring it into some this and that, okay? Things that does not quite matter. But when things matter, don't you dare talk about God and all of this, okay? So when planning and so forth, and no, this is serious matter now, okay? Which the opposite was the believer, right? So you find those who do not take Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the equation, before their meetings they make dua. And they do not take Allah in the equation, but they fulfill the need that they are religious, right? Like, for example, the Congress, when they meet and what do? The first session and so forth, they get somebody to make dua. Oh God, you are watching us, you are this and that. And mostly the dua is about what? About God, you have all abilities, and singling Allah by His actions. And you're capable of this, and that. And then even ask Allah to guide them. They get to that far and guide us and so forth. But then when that matter is done with the dua, they go now to the matter of business, and God has nothing to do with this equation now. Okay? And they say, no, we separate ourselves from this. And they say it like that. There is a separation now. It's a religion is something between you and your Lord. This is, and go do what. No. Now we are in serious matter. Where a believer, the more the matter becomes serious, the more the connection that he enhances with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, why? Because the matter is serious. The matter now, it needs a dua now. It needs, a supplication. It needs, submission to Allah, and on and on. Okay, so the very existence, okay, that we have depends on Al-Ali Al-Azim. Al-Ali Al-Azim. Okay, that ends the Ayat Al-Kursi. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ali, that is the most high, the most great. Another word that ends this ayah. It tells you now you know where you stand in the universe, or where you stand with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? Therefore, you should have this in your mind all the time, that you are standing with Al-Ali Al-Azim. Okay? That is the one, the most high and most great. Nothing is higher than Allah, nothing that is greater than Allah. So we say Allahu Akbar. Okay? Allah is greater than. That's actually what it means. When you say Allahu Akbar, that means Allah is greater than. So that is a sentence that is not complete. Akbaru min mada? Greater than what? Okay, greater than everything else, and anything else is greater. So this is now, it is coming into Ayat al-Kursi, coming into Surah al-Baqarah in such a place. And it is a pivotal, it's a milestone in the surah. Okay, it seems like there is something, a theme before it and then a theme that's after it. Okay? The theme is after, the theme before it we talked about a lot, which is who you are, who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, and are you a muttaqi, a believer, or are you a kafir, or are you munafiq, right? And the examples of nifaq and kufr and so forth, and then what a believer should be doing, and the acts of worship, okay, some acts of worship was mentioned and so forth, right? And then their relationship with one another, and divorce and so forth, right? And then from Ayatul Kursi on, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked to us as a custodian, are the custodians of the earth now, and with each other, okay? How we deal with wealth, the wealth that you have, okay? Because there is a dynamic on the planet Earth here between humanity, okay? Humanity there is a need for us to deal with one another, right? You do not have all the mulk and control. You need each other. So when you need each other, that means you need to take care of each other at the same time. So that the strong one or the knowledgeable one should not take advantage of the weak one and the less knowledgeable one. Okay? So now, from now on, only we're gonna Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will talk to us about a concept and two stories, okay? And then continue talking about wealth. Before Ayatul Kursi, wealth was talked about. Spending in the way of Allah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاتَّقُوا يَوْمًا, okay? That يا أيها الذين ما أنفقوا مما رزقناكم من قبل أن يأتي يوم لا بيع فيه ولا خلة ولا شفاعة. That before the day, spend from what Allah has given you before a day, what? لا بيع فيه ولا خلة ولا شفاعة. There is no buying and selling, there is no friendship, there is no intercession. Okay? Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell us about this, about the how to deal with one another, about the khulla that would have between one another, the relationship, that's closeness that you can give those who are needy. Okay? And then will tell us about bay'ah, about buying and selling, and how this contract should be. Okay? And then tell us about the end of the surah, a crescendo, if you will, of the concept now of the whole surah. Okay, the concept of existence. Okay, the concept of submission with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The ayat that came directly from Allah to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not from Jibreel alayhi salam. Okay, the end of Surah Al-Baqarah. So now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will talk to us about La ikraha fi din. And what time do we have now? How long do we have for the shuruq?
6 minutes.
6 minutes for shuruq or 6 minutes for?
Oh no, 6 minutes for shuruq. For sunrise, 6 minutes. 16 minutes for 7:24 is sunrise. 22.
After 10 minutes is sunrise.
Yeah.
Okay, so we still have time.
After 6 minutes.
Okay. So we have 50 minutes.
Yeah.
About 50 minutes.
Yes.
Okay. Should we continue? Should we stop, inshallah? We'll stop and inshallah, if you have any comments, inshallah. Mm-hmm.
About the kursi, you said
Mm-hmm.
in our last session, you said that we should not think the kursi, we should think as it is, whatever is said. But there is another meaning also explained that kursi encompassing everything. Another meaning of the kursi.
Yes, yes.
This is the perspective.
That it is that the chair, that kursi, is big enough to hold the universe in it.
We
Yes.
should not take it as the kursi as a kursi to sit.
Well, yeah, we know the famous comment that Imam Malik said when a man entered in the session and he said, كيف استوى الرحمن على العرش? How the most merciful استوى on the throne. Okay? So, when it comes to how with Allah, we do not know, right? Okay? So we know what Allah tells us, but the how, we do not know. So, he said, al-istiwa'u ma'loom. Okay? That al-istiwa is known. To sit is known. Right? When I say you sit, I know what sitting is. Okay? وَالْكَيْفُ مَجْهُولٌ. How? It's unknown. Right? But now, how are you going to understand that? So he said, وَالْإِيمَانُ بِهِ وَاجِبٌ. And believing it like this is a must. وَالسُّؤَالُ عَنْهُ بِدْعَةٌ. And to ask about it is bid'ah. And get him out of the session, he said. Because he knows that he's starting to start a fitna. Okay? Because what is sitting? Sitting is to be in a place that is containing you by you leaving a place that you were in. Right? You were in a place and you're going to sit, so you leave the place that you're in and go into a place where it continues sitting. So now when we think about it that way, we're thinking about what we know in time and space, right? That with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is, we don't do that. ذو الكيف مجهول. Okay? أو غير معلوم. The al-kayf is not known. So, does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala istawa ala al-arsh? Yes. And that's it. Okay? The how we do not know. And we have this in a hadith. When Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tells us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala every night comes down to the lower skies. Right? To us coming down, how? When you come down, that means you leave a place and you be in another place. Right? But that, again, you're thinking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is contained by time and space. So we say, we ask, does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala come down to the lower skies? We say yes. You understand? We must say yes, because Rasulullah said that Allah does. So we cannot be too shy to confirm that. Some will be too shy and will say, that means it is the ability of Allah, the quwwah of Allah, the qadar of, you understand? Try to squeeze it to something else. But that's not what Rasulullah said. So how do you understand it? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes down to the lower sky every night in a way that's befitting His Majesty. Khalas. We don't know how. Wallahu a'lam.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, on the day of judgment, certain kinds of people who did certain things in this world will be under the shade of the arsh of Allah.
Mm-hmm.
So, is it the same thing as kursi or istawa, like istawa al-arsh, or what? Is it, the shade? Because there will be no light except the light of Allah on this earth.